Lori Zimmer.
Me,
And Maria Krasinski, author and illustrator of the book Art Hiding in Paris. Logan, you could show it. Could you do that? Show the book? Okay, very good. An illustrated guide to the city of light. They are childhood friends, originally from Buffalo, New York, with a passion for art history, and finding the magic in the cities they live in. The pair's first book, Art Hiding in New York, was received with acclaim and centers around the abundance of murals, public art, master paintings, sculptures, artists' homes, and hidden installations that are hiding in plain sight in an ever-changing Manhattan. We don't care about Manhattan, do we? Okay, it's okay. I'm sorry, I digress. Their second collaborative book focuses on the already art-abundant city of light, inviting readers to explore its wonders and fascinating narratives. More deeply, both historical and modern, Art Hiding in Paris can be found at the gift shops in the Louvre and Centre Pompidou, as well as the Red Wheelbarrow Bookstore, Fluctuar, and Smith & Sons. Zimmer and Krasinski will discuss the journey from old friends to book partners, their love of New York and Paris, and their hope that the books will inspire readers to find magic in art and history wherever they are. Their third book, Together, Not Your Muse, will be published by Running Press in 2024. On that note, you can have your mic back.
Thank you. Pardon me for a second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Lori. I live in New York, so thus Art Hiding in New York. And
I'm Maria. I live here in Paris.
We see each other a lot, though.
See each other now.
We're
New York, Paris,
in each other's cities a lot, so we do have to tell her when to change the slides.
Adrian,
Leeds.
Can we?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Move a slide?
Move a slide. So we thought we'd get started with just how this adventure began, because it really started as a passion project.
Yeah.
As Adrian said, Lori and I were originally from Buffalo, New York, and shout out to my dad who is here, and his wife Cindy. And we went to middle school together, but then went to different high schools, different colleges, kind of went apart, and through the magic of social media found each other in our early 20s and found out we had kind of followed similar paths and we're still in different passions. I ended up in Chicago, Lori was in Philly and then New York, and we just kind of rekindled our friendship as adults. And
To be fair, we met in the Nerd Herd, it was called, the Gifted Talented program, and then we grew up to write nerdy books, so it kind of is full circle. So
continues the trend.
It makes sense. But we started doing the New York book as a passion project with the idea of, she's an illustrator, I was always research art history anyway, and we didn't even know if we would ever find a publisher. We just wrote and illustrated the entire book when Maria was in Tbilisi. She was doing a year in the Peace Corps 4 or 5 years ago.
2017.
Yeah.
6. So yeah, I was needed a break from life and signed up for the Peace Corps, as one does. So I was living in Georgia, and there's a slower pace of life there, much like you find in Paris, and I found more time to draw and paint and just be creative. And Lori came to visit me, and I was just showing her some drawings I had done of Tbilisi, and first she was like, I didn't know you draw. And I was like, we've literally been friends since we were 9.
Sorry.
It's okay. But also Lori had this beginnings of this idea for a book, and the style that I would draw in, which is very sketchy in the moment, kind of capture the mood of the city. I love urban architectural drawing, matched what Lori was looking for.
You were the catalyst, because I had this idea, but I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know if it was going to be a book. It was like literally a spreadsheet, because I'm that dorky, and I saw her drawings. So we did this, and a month after we finished, we got an agent, we got a publisher. Our book is one of the best sellers at the Met Museum, so we're cooking. And then, of course, after we finished this one, Paris made sense. Maria lives here now, so.
And we both have spent a lot of time in Paris over the years, coming and going, so we always knew Paris would be the second book if we had the opportunity to do so. So let's skip ahead. So we decided, because our hiding in New York came out in the lovely year that was 2020. So we
in September.
September 2020. So deep in pandemic. So this was Lori's fourth book at the time. Third book. It was my first book, and when you're working on this, you have dreams of a big launch party. You're gonna bring everyone you know. I was thinking, this is my wedding. This is when everyone's gonna come celebrate this. But no, that did not happen.
No. The world had other.
The world was put on pause. So the following year, we decided to really celebrate its 1-year birthday here in Paris. So this was us celebrating at Le Dali, having the amazing tea at the Le Maurice Hotel.
With the Cedric Grolet pastries.
Amazing pastries and tea.
You haven't had them.
And actually, just even though the timing was terrible to release a book during the pandemic, this book kind of turned out to be a perfect pandemic book, for New Yorkers who are stuck in place and can't travel, can't go anywhere. All the museums are closed, the galleries are closed. It's an opportunity to rediscover your city. And
people were using it as a treasure hunt. So basically, I worked in the art world for a long time, and it can be very gatekeepy, snotty for unnecessary reasons, and I don't like that. I'm a very casual person. I feel like even if you don't have an art history degree, we all have eyes. We all want to explore places. So I wrote this book in an approachable manner for people who have an art history degree or who just are traveling, and so that's sort of become for the people. And so people have been using it, taking it around the city to explore new things. And even our friends in Paris who have lived here all their lives are find things in the book. They're I had no idea that was there. I walk by it every day. And that's sort of the point, is we're always so busy on our way, especially living in New York. You have to commute from A to B, and you're just trying to keep your coffee in your cup and not spilled all over you, so you're not looking at everything around you.
So when we started working on Paris, of course, we had to include this beautiful room and all the beautiful art, but also because Le Maurice has this storied history of Salvador Dali.
So
spending quite a lot
Dali kind of spans the New York and the Paris books, obviously because he's extremely famous, but he used to spend 1 to 2 months a year in New York at the St. Regis and 1 to 2 months a year at Le Maurice, where he, of course, caused havoc because he was famous for just being cuckoo. And also, so the tea room is named after him, and the ceiling is this beautiful surrealist ceiling designed by Ara Stark, the designer Philippe Stark's daughter. She actually does a lot of ceilings in Paris. That's kind of funny. I didn't even think of that. She's a painter, so we thought that was definitely appropriate to put in here. And next. Yeah, we'll wait a second.
We'll take a pause here. And just say that was drawn from life. That is exactly the meal we were having when we were celebrating the 1-year anniversary. Okay, we'll go to the next one, please. So this book, and similar with the New York book, New York is focused all on Manhattan. For Paris, we tried to get, I think we have every arrondissement except one has at least one site featured. And while it's called a guidebook, it's sort of an inspiration book, I guess. There's not explicit, there's some itineraries, I should say that. But this is a loose rendering of where you can find all of the places that are featured in this book. And with Lori and I, and I'm sure many of you, we love walking. Paris is such a city for walking, for getting lost, for discovering things. Same with New York. And that's our favorite thing to do, is to try and get lost and just stop and look and, hey, what's that? Or that building looks interesting. And that's just how all of these pieces came together. So it's by no means exhaustive, and I'm sure all of you who live here have places you love as well. We had to cull it down.
I mean, it's Paris. You trip over art history with every step.
Everywhere
so
you
we
go.
Just chose, I would say 100-ish, just more. It's more, but
it's more.
Officially 100. And the reason that we wanted, that I wanted an illustrator was because I had all the guidebooks in the past, and sometimes when I see an actual photograph, that makes me not go to the place, because I'm like, oh, there it is, that's it. So I thought that having illustrations would appeal to your mind, your daydream a little bit, and then get everyone out the door. And so basically, also the things in the book, we tried to pick things that were close to a cafe, or just not in the middle of nowhere. I don't want to make everyone trudge out to the middle of nowhere for something.
Yeah. And some places don't exist anymore, at least not in the way that the story
Right.
is told in the book. So that's another way like illustration kind of can bring in that imaginative piece. I think most of the Paris sites still exist because Paris is much better at preserving its history.
Since the
in
New York
New
book has been published, several of the things that I fact-checked to death have been removed, and they were never supposed to. Yeah, like 2 of the Calder pieces were sold. The Calder Foundation promised me they wouldn't be, and what? C'est la vie.
So for the rest of this talk is we're going to take you on a little tour of some of
Magical
our,
journey.
our favorite sites.
Paris is already magical, but maybe there's a little more that you haven't seen or thought about yet. So
Next,
yes,
please. So this one, it still dazzles
cool.
me. It's so cool. Some of you may recognize this, but back in 2018, I believe.
Yeah.
So the Oscar de la Renta boutique in the 8th arrondissement was renovating. They were moving into this space that was just kind of a empty warehouse for a while, covered with drywall and drop ceilings and really nondescript. And this is one of the reasons we love Paris so much, is while they were doing the construction and they took down part of that ceiling, like, oh wait, what's that? And then you take more of the ceiling and then you see this incredible painted, gorgeous beam ceiling. And when they got to the walls, similarly, they started to peel back that drywall, and there is this full-scale painting that's glued right onto the wall.
I think it's 11 or 16 feet.
Yeah, it's
giant.
It's bigger than this, which dates to the 1600s.
1674.
1674 to be exact, and it has just been covered up for decades. I think the theory is probably since about World War II, just to kind of
Nazis, yeah.
protect it and to preserve it and hide it, and then it was just forgotten. And now it's the room where you have these gorgeous wedding gowns as works of art, kind of competing maybe. I don't know which one is the stronger
So
work of
Oscar
art.
de la Renta, they paid to have it restored, and they had like a Louvre restorer come in, and you're welcome to just go in. You don't have to be shopping for expensive wedding gowns.
Can you go to the next slide?
Next one.
Which is exactly what I did on a rainy day early in COVID, hence the mask. There are lots of people there to look at the beautiful fashion, but I was like, can I just come look at the mural? And everyone in the shop was really delighted to share about this story, and you can sense that they're proud to display it. It's a little blurry there, but this is where you can see more of the detail in the room, and so I would highly recommend if you haven't seen it.
It's just massive, and
It's massive, it's really special, and it kind of gets at, this is like a Louvre quality piece. It's massive, and it's just right there.
but since it's glued to the wall, they can't move
they
it.
can't move it.
Thanks to you, we know about this. Because
Now you
otherwise,
know.
How would we know about it?
There was barely any press about it too. I don't even know how I found it.
There was a great article in the New York Times, but I think it was like one of those that came on like a Sunday afternoon. Like it wasn't breaking news. Like to us, this is breaking news.
Yeah, we have a lot of these stories in the book, so
Yeah.
yay.
Next.
Next. This is another one
Another
of
one.
those stories in the book. Okay, so Rue Blondel historically has been a place for maison close, the brothels. And when the 40s, 42 is when officially prostitution became illegal in France, I believe. Don't quote me on that, around there. And so this was, it opened in the Belle Epoque. And then, like the other one, they put drywall up, forgot about it, and it actually immediately became student housing, which is interesting. Transition. And so it was in this family for decades, and the last iteration of it was like a computer supply warehouse or something with really bad, remember those 80s walls where you could just clip in the hanger, whatever. So they were renovating in actually 20 years ago.
Yeah, 20.
And behind the wall, they found this decorative tiles. So the only thing that's been preserved is the first floor, and there's these beautiful erotic tiles showing ladies from the Belle Epoque, and the proprietor is Caroline, and she basically once a month now, it's an event space, and once a month they have a cocktail hour with a presentation in French, and they have two lovely ladies who sing songs as if it were, the Belle Epoque, and you can take a look at all of the beautiful tiles.
Yeah, the mosaics around there, it's really stunning, and there are also, some of them are depicting kind of mythological scenes, so you'll have a faun and a satyr, things going back to Egyptian.
Yeah.
So it's really drawing from various eras of art history, and it's just stunning and impeccably preserved. That's Caroline, it's not me.
Oh, that's us. You
That's
can't see
us.
us inside
Yeah.
of, this is a photo.
We're-
But it was called Au Belle Poule back in the day, so she kept the name, and actually the tiling of the title, or the name of
Still there.
the brothel is still there. But it's a really beautiful place, and occasionally open to the public. Highly recommend.
And it's a great tour. Like it's not just about the space, but you really get a snapshot of that era in history, who was coming there, kind of the rights of women at that time.
Yeah.
And it's highly recommend.
And my French
that.
is not great, and I understood it all, so it's...
Yeah.
Next,
Okay,
please.
next one.
Another one!
Front loaded all our favorites
Yeah, we
just to
put
make
all
sure
our
we can
favorites
get
in the
through them.
front. Okay, so the Grand Rex Theater. Has anyone ever gone to a movie or a concert there? Okay, so during the pandemic, you may have heard of it. The proprietors were like, "What are we going to do? We can't have guests." So they decided there's been this mural at the top of the stairs, but for years it's just been covered with whatever movie posters because it was really not doing so good. So they decided they were going to restore the mural. Coincidentally, it was painted by our friend's grandfather, so we got all of the inside information on it, and he painted it. The theater was opened in 1931 by Edwin Hook, who was the man responsible for bringing Charlie Chaplin to France, so Charlot. And so initially, the painting, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So 2020, the painting, it showed, this is just a section of it, but it's supposed to be a Hollywood movie set of like Buccaneers, and there's like singer and a showgirl, and this was a clown, maybe Pierrot, I'm not sure. Well, hold your horses, lady. And yeah, for years it was a clown. No one really thought about it. And so when they were restoring it, they were like, wait a second, this paint is on the clown's face is newer, different. And they
Covering
removed it,
something
and they
else.
realized Chaplin was underneath. And it was because during World War II, it was the Nazi soldier headquarters. And of course, Chaplin did The Dictator film. And so they were like, we can't have that. So they painted over with a clown. Something, I just think it's kind of interesting that we wouldn't know it was there if the world didn't shut down for those many, many months.
Is that who added the Jewish star to his pants?
I don't think that's meant to be a
Those are
full
Maria's
hour, I
pants.
think. They're just my pants.
But it's just inside. If you go to you have to go see a movie, and it's
Just right
just
up the
inside
main
at the top.
staircase.
This is a photo that you can't really see.
Okay, so that's your drawing is what's on the right.
That's my drawing.
Yeah.
That's the photo.
And that's a photo.
That's just
and
my
it's by
scribble of
sorry,
it.
Henri Mailly. He was a painter. I don't think we included the Moulin Rouge in this slideshow. He also, in the 50s, when the Moulin Rouge reopened after World War II, Paris was like having this very nostalgic moment for the Belle Epoque again, because, you know, looking back, everything was great. And so the new owner of the Moulin Rouge hired Henri Mailly in 51 to paint these murals about the history of Moulin Rouge. So you don't even have to buy a ticket and go there. I don't know if you've walked by, but there's like kind of a corridor to walk in. So the murals are up at the top, and one side is the Belle Epoque, and it's sort of like a history of everyone that ever
Like the
performed there. And the other side is more modern. The can. More modern, but it's just really interesting to know. Like when I met this friend, I had no idea his grandfather did all of this, and I walked around Paris seeing it. So it was just kind of like serendipitous that. Anyway, so
Lori likes to say she collects ancestors.
I do. From all of my writing and research, like ancestors reach out to me, and I don't know. It's kind of exciting.
The granddaughter of this. The
Yeah,
grandson of that,
yeah.
the
I
great
collect
niece.
ancestors if anyone's interested. If you have an interesting ancestor, I want to talk to you. Just kidding.
Okay.
Next, please. We like every single one. I'm
yeah,
not
they're
gonna
all
lie.
our favorites. They all dazzle us. And this one, so is this familiar to folks? Yeah. So we found that like years
Just
ago,
by Pompidou.
just walking around. Yeah, it's in the Quartier Horloge near the Pompidou Center, and it's another one where because it's above street level, you could just be walking by like my drawing figures and maybe not notice it, but I noticed it first just as a sculpture, and then you're like, wait, that's a clock. And it was installed in 1979, but hasn't worked since 2000.
Yeah, it
2001.
had, and when we saw it, it had seen better days.
It had
was
definitely seen better days.
Covered with
A lot of
bird poop.
Yeah. A lot of
But
poop.
anyway.
It was a very fancy pigeon coop at the time. But
So we put
still
it in
really
the book
magical.
without knowing.
Just because we appreciated it as this kind of like wild work of art. Like there's this automaton and then there's this dragon and they're all metal and what's going on, and I guess there's a broken clock, and we just found it fascinating in being in the environment that it is. And then serendipitously, like 2 months after this book was published, well, first I should say I was walking by one day and it was not there, and I was like, oh crap! Like another one.
Another
like,
one.
We put it in the book and now it's not there anymore.
Fact checking.
Fact checking didn't work. But because again, this is why we love Paris, they took it down to fix it and to put it back, and so it was reinstalled in February, I believe, this year, and now it works again. So every 15, 30 minutes, but at was it 6
Noon
o'clock? At
and
noon
6
and 6.
o'clock. Okay.
The whole thing comes alive. So the automaton, he is the defender of time, the titular character who is fighting the dragon, the crab, and the chicken, the cock,
Rooster, yeah.
whatever. So air, land, sea, mythical creatures. And at 6 o'clock, he fights them all at once. At sort of the half hour, he fights one at a time.
And all day the dragon breathes.
Suddenly.
It's really cool. It's like, metal. It's like a robot. Yeah. Quartier Horloge.
You have to go in.
No, I
So if
know.
you know where like the Leroy Merlin is, there you go, and then you just go around the corner, and it's right there. Yeah. Just
It's
right
pretty
around
cool.
So that's a fave. Next.
Sev Porto. Okay, everyone. I'm like, oh, okay. So this one. So this is from I think it was 1901
1900,
Exhibition Universelle, and basically it was the Sev. It's a catalog of what could be made at the Sev porcelain manufactory, and it's Art Nouveau, and France is really good at preserving things instead of throwing them away like we do in New York, and it's all done in Art Nouveau, and there's cherubs and in Art Nouveau patterns, and it's
Scarabs, florals.
it's just on it's in Saint-Germain, and it's this lovely little park where you can sit and just look at this beautiful porcelain catalog that is gorgeous. We call it the Art Nouveau portico because it kind of transports you back.
Mm-hmm. And that one was me. That's my Easter egg.
Oh, that's Maria and her dog.
I like to have Hitchcock moments where I draw myself into a scene.
Yeah.
So that's
little
me.
secrets that only no one would care about.
And
but us.
that was my dog, Muppet. So yeah. If you know, you know.
What's the cross street of that?
So it's right at Église Saint-Germain. So
It's
right
on
at
the one
metro.
side of it, and then the other side of it is
Next. Yep. Just behind that.
the only, I think, Picasso sculpture in the public besides the museum. It's for Apollinaire, who was the father of Surrealism poet, his friend, who died in 1919 of Spanish flu after being injured in World War I. It's the head of Dora Maar. I don't really know why they chose that one.
Yeah.
I think it's random. But it's on the other side of the Église in this little beautiful bramble of wildflowers.
Mhm. So great place to read a book. Just there's benches ringed around it. It's really lovely, quiet square.
This is a good cluster to see all these things. They're literally, you could just stand and next.
Next. And then
And
across
then
the street.
across the street, outside of Dumago, is we have a bunch of the Osip Sedkin sculptures. We kind of have a roundup in the book, but this is one of our favorites, and it's directly across Cubist Fun. This one is really well taken care of. Some of the other ones have seen better days. I feel like now that the Olympics are coming, things are getting cleaned slowly, which is kind of a perk of what's going to happen in Paris next year. But and the Zedkin Museum is excellent as well.
Yes, they just, if you haven't been yet, they just recently, I think maybe last year or this year even, reopened his home and studio near the Jardin Luxembourg, and it's just a beautiful space, so well preserved, great video, just to kind of see some of these works in progress or in different materials and get really into the process.
He
of
worked
how
during
they
the
come to be.
early 1900s, 1920s, 1930s in Montparnasse. Next, please. Villa des Arts. We had such a lovely day at Villa des Arts. So this is just on the other side of the Montmartre Cemetery, and it has consistently been affordable studio, there's amazing affordable studios for French artists. Also, Cézanne painted there. He painted. That's at the Petit Palais. There's a painting, and I can never pronounce Ambroise Voyard. He was a big art dealer of Cézanne's back in the day, and Cézanne painted the painting in his studio there, and I believe he made Voyard sit for like 150 sittings, which is kind of insane. And it's at the Petit Palais, although when I was there in July, it was on loan. But it's an amazing thing. But this staircase is the famous.
It's quite a complex of buildings, but this is a really showpiece of it. And I think one of the reasons that we're so drawn to it, like Gloria was saying, is it has this connection to history. Like Cézanne was there. I think even Matisse had a moment there.
Yeah.
Like all these names you would recognize from
ateliers.
last century, and it's still artists are there today making work. So we got to meet one of the artists who has a studio, a home studio there now, and just to have that thread with history, like you're creating in the same place as these.
And they also have
artists.
exhibitions there.
It's open
So
studios.
I love that you can go in and experience the history. So that's a lot of the things that we write about or we include is I love. Okay, so I started walking around New York, and I love to stand in the doorway of where like Georgia O'Keeffe lived with Alfred Stieglitz, and kind of try to like look around and see if I can see what she saw back then. And so this is
I live in Montmartre, that's why.
Right. So
Same
this
idea.
is one of the things. It's like ties old and new together, and you can discover new artists while also visiting the past. Next, please.
Like another one is sort of maybe
Your
the most
neighborhood.
famous store, in my neighborhood. So, as many of us know, Vincent van Gogh had near the end of his life, stayed in Paris with his brother Theo in this apartment on Rue Lepic, which has this kind of iconic blue door now. And you often
Painted really poorly.
they did not color match when they were touching up this door. So of course we had to put that in there. The placard is no longer there, but
Somebody broke it.
Somebody broke it, but you'll still see
It'll probably be
guides. I think it'll be back soon. But again, just like throughout the book, we have various addresses where artists lived, where they hung out, where they had their coffee, where maybe they met for a salon, like we're doing now. And again, it's part of just wanting to embody the time, the era, the mood. You see the finished work in a museum, but then you can kind of walk by and think, oh, he was making these works when he was living in this space. What was he seeing when he was out for his walk?
Yeah, he painted from his window view. There's at the Louvre, of course, there's a bunch of paintings, so it's kind of interesting to see where it was made. Next, please. La Ruche. La Ruche is another artist collective, and Modigliani. So Eiffel helped make it. It's made from the remnants of one of the Universal Expositions. It was a wine hall, actually.
Exactly.
And they still, it's similar as Villa des Arts. They have, where's your drawing?
Oops.
Okay, you're fired. They still have exhibitions every month that you can go to and walk around and see where Modigliani painted.
Yeah, so when artists
And Zed
kind of
Keen.
moved from Montmartre and then Montparnasse became the hub, then you have more enclaves like this popping up in that area.
And there's a bunch of stories of artists moving in the early 1900s to Paris without being able to speak a word of French, but they just knew La Ruche, and they would get directed there. And it was pretty like they lived in squalor, was it?
And it's shaped like a beehive,
Yeah,
hence the
so
name.
that's what La
Ruche.
Ruche means.
Next.
Yes. You want to tell your story? Because
I'll
you got
tell
to
it,
go there. Yeah.
Well, so as I said, we have lots of homes of artists, but also people that were really heroes of the art world to us. So I don't know if you know the story of Rose Valland, or if you've seen the movie Monuments Men with George Clooney, but during World War II, Rose, she a curator?
She was a librarian at the Jeu de Paume.
At the Jeu de Paume, which the Nazis also occupied, and was kind of the clearinghouse for all the art that was being looted and sent either for their own personal collection or destroyed. What the Germans did not know was that Rose was fluent in German, and so she kept a very meticulous log of all of these artworks, where they were going, what train they would be on, so the Allies wouldn't bomb it. And so she was directly responsible for the recovery of so many of these
pretty
artworks.
amazing. Thousands.
Thousands and thousands
And
of
she
artworks.
will be in our next book, Not Your Muse, which got pushed back to 2025.
And so this is her home. It's in the Fifth, right near the Arène de Lutèce, kind of just a quiet street. And I was walking by one day and standing outside admiring a random building, as I often do. And a woman came up. She was going in the building and said hello. And she was like, "Oh, you know, I live in Rose Valland's apartment." Like, so she died in 1980, and then this woman moved in, and I really wanted to be like, "Can I come inside?"
But
that was,
I would have asked her.
I know.
I'm a New Yorker.
I asked her if I could take her photo, and she said no. So I'm like, if I can't take her picture,
Yeah, fair.
she's not going to invite me inside
Fair
her home.
enough.
But so she like was contemporary of her, and again, it's like one step to history, to these people that we admire so much.
Next, please. Oh, Françoise.
Oh,
Okay,
Françoise.
so I first wrote about Françoise. She's a Belgian artist because she, in New York, in Soho, in the 80s, it was pretty much no man's land, and she put in the first, she was commissioned to put in the first public art piece, and it's a sidewalk on Green Street, and it's supposed to look, it's inspired by this like subway lines, but it's supposed to be like arteries and the circulatory system of the city. So I wrote about her then, and then we started working on this book, and she did the metro station of Concord, and Maria got to meet her.
Yeah, she's lovely. So she lives here in Paris. So we had a tea. She has both of our books. So she's one of the few living artists actually that we have featured.
And her work is largely, the one in New York is kind of a fluke. The rest, after that, she makes work about human rights. And so this is the, in French,
the
I can't think.
Declaration of the
Rights of Man. It's like a word search kind of in French for phrases from that. Next, please. Oh yeah, yeah, right.
That's
like
that, yeah.
41 paintings from 1900 for the Exposition Universelle. God, I wish I could have experienced those. What a gorgeous place in Gare de Lyon. I was there the other day, and the front is under construction, but you can still, it looks like a big marshmallow right now with white plastic, but
The magic is still
what
inside.
a place. Has anyone been there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Even for a drink.
Yeah. Have a peek before you get on your train.
Yeah. But it showed everywhere that the trains went in 1900, so it's like a painting from each
Destination.
Next, please. Oh, Toniel. Okay. This beautiful Murano glass. There's at the Petit Palais in the staircase a beautiful crown. Oh, I love it so. I want to wear. I mean, obviously, I want to wear all of those things because I'm kind of fancy sometimes. But beautiful kiosk of the Nightwalkers with that beautiful glass. It's like jewelry, Paris jewelry.
Yeah. Exactly.
Next, please.
Oh.
Yours.
This is like often people ask what's your favorite piece in the book? And of course mine is an art store. It's an art supply store. You may have seen Sennelier as a brand is sold throughout, but there are a few locations in Paris, but this one is right along the Seine. It's the original location run by the Sennelier family, where Cézanne, Van Gogh, Degas, Picasso bought their art supplies and actually to create all the browns of Degas, oil pastels for Picasso were created specifically for him in this store. And you walk in there and you're just like, this is the staircase.
I mean, he's not really lurking there, but you can pretend.
The ghost of Picasso could be lurking there.
It's true.
So I love these spaces that, again, have an active connection to history, and you can go in and be a part of it as well. And they're really lovely. They're very helpful.
Next, please. Bateau Lavoir, burned down, so it's just a recreation, but another Picasso started here when he was poor, before he had all of the wives and women. It was called Bateau Lavoir by Max Jacob, I believe, because it was such a shanty that when the wind would blow, it was like a laundry boat, and very much like a gross dark room with a single light bulb and Picasso, and everyone lived there. But so much happened there. But they recreated the little store front of it. It's in Montmartre. It's just lovely, a little square.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Next, please. I love Dalida. It's the only song I could sing karaoke. It was one of hers. But so Aslan also did, I don't know if you've seen her
Gravestone. Or tomb. I don't know.
Sculpture. It's a life-size
yeah.
sculpture of her on her grave in Montmartre Cemetery. But he did both of these, and she was just it's directly across from where she lived in Place Dalida. Obviously, people like to touch it. So.
Yeah.
That's why it's
It's polished, exactly.
She would. I think she would have liked, especially the gold. She was so fancy. I went to an exhibition of her clothing. Wow, a couple years ago, many years ago, and she was such a glamorous woman. And this street is just like the Montmartre postcard. You're walking
got a great view
into it. She has a great view for eternity.
Next one.
Catherinettes. So does anyone know what the Catherinettes are? Okay, so it's like unmarried women over 25. They yeah.
They have the patron saint was Saint Catherine for all those poor unmarried 26-year-olds
And if you Google them, all of the photos, they look so happy.
So happy.
Like they're like every single one looks like a great party that I want to go to. But this is kind of a little bit of a worn sculpture, but it's beautiful. It shows Belle Epoque women, but the Catherinettes really became more popular, I think, in the 20s. But it's in the middle of a little square, and another place I love to just sit in a park and read, because in New York we only have Central Park. So this is one of them, and you'll notice every single one has a smile. I'm not married, obviously. Sorry, honey. Next, please.
I'm just pointing this out because I've used this often as a monument for giving directions. It's right by the St. George
Oh, this
Metro
is your marker?
Station.
Okay, gotcha.
This is my direction marker, so I was giving that. Yeah, this is a fun one. So it's a monument to Gavarni, but
who is the illustrator?
But we like it.
So did you know that officially wearing pants as a woman in France was officially illegal till 2013? And you could get a prescription from your doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. From your doctor, though, you're gonna have like a prescription for pants. God, that'd be
my
a good
prescription
business.
lapsed.
If anyone wants to make a business, make prescription pants, you have my blessing. But okay, so it depicts the circus, and there is a woman here, and she's wearing pants, and so this sort of became an unofficial like feminist icon, even though it's for Gavarni, who was an artist that no one's ever heard of anymore. He didn't last the test of time. But women in the circus, because they were wearing costumes, were allowed to wear pants as whatever their costume, whatever their character was. So that was the exception to the rule. Yeah.
Exactly.
A man. That. Next
one. Oh, yeah.
So, Teatro de Gobelin. So, this is I think this is the first Rodin piece when he was still an assistant. It is on Gobelin. It is now a
movie theater.
Pate, is that how you pronounce Pate? Yeah, like a foundation for early film. But he sculpted this, and he was paid like more than any other artist at the time, which was probably like 60 francs, but who knows. But it's kind of cool to see, like, obviously he really, really changed. This was when he had an assignment, and then before he was like found his artistic voice, I guess to say.
So yeah, it's interesting the commissioned pieces before the artist who became the artists we know them as now. They were taking jobs.
Taking jobs. Next, please. Ooh, want me to do it? Okay,
yeah, do it.
So
it's a good one.
At the foot of Rue Mouffetard, there is this amazing. Okay, you have to go in different times of the day. On a sunny day, it glows like a golden. So it was as kids in the 80s, did anyone ever you basically color in crayon on a piece of paper, then you paint over it in black, and then you scratch away. That's what sgraffito is, and it was a Renaissance technique that was revived in the Art Nouveau period for some reason. And so basically, Adighieri, couldn't find anything about him other than his name. He was hired, this was at the time a butcher, and so they wanted to show in an artful way the meats that they sold.
The
So
animals you could buy inside.
it's a big advertisement that's actually really beautiful. So there's all different animals and game all painted all over the facade. It's really like a surprising thing, and also one of those classic things for us you don't notice when you're walking, because it's like on the third and fourth, and you just walk by and you're like, oh wow, it's so beautiful. And of course, Rue Mouffetard is a beautiful street to go eat things on. Next, please. Want me to do it?
Yeah.
This one is a little bit different for us. It's more of like legend and lore. So there's a legend that when Notre Dame was being constructed, one of the sculptors lived in this house, and he kept a dove and two doves, like a dove couple, if you will. And the house caved in for some reason, and one dove saved the other dove by bringing it treats, and they were able to the doves were rescued. But anyway, so there's doves now all over the building from like 500 years ago. But the other interesting thing is Ludwig Bemelman? That's who, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The restaurant is attached to, he owned it for a hot second and painted murals inside. They're not there anymore. They were auctioned off a long time ago, but we love to, stand in front of a thing where the famous artist was. So that's sort of
It's
a
one of
double.
Yeah, double fave.
Next, please.
Have you
Maria
guys
loves
seen
to
this?
hang out in front of this and talk to people.
I attract random strangers. So if you've seen this, if you've been to the flea markets at San Juan, Marché Dauphine, there's this giant alien orb of a house just kind of occupying the main atrium there.
And they were really hated. There's not that many that exist
Not many.
anymore.
I think
So,
you can Airbnb one.
people thought they were like an abomination of architecture, and he like Mehdi Sarounen would drop them, and they were made for like to be in the mountains in the middle of nowhere, like ski, your own
Like a
personal
lodge.
ski chalet, and for some reason they were really hated. So there's not that many that exist. So there's one there, and you can rent it for your own little party if you want. We have not yet.
Not yet. It's coming.
Anyone been to La Défense? It's like not a place I feel like most people visit, very modern, but there's so much art there that's kind of exciting. I don't know, I kind of like to go there that's beautiful. And then you see the Arc de Triomphe, it's kind of like the straight shot. But a lot of modern sculptures, a Moreau, like
It feels just kind of like a more modern art playground because there's so much space there and everything is more modern. So just even how it interplays with the buildings around it, they're so glass and shiny. So it's
and they do
reflecting
have
back.
some like art festivals outside there. So I suggest going during one of those so you can see the permanent works and also
the
enjoy
new
something else.
installations.
I think there's a Calder Stabile there that may be for sale.
Hey, there we
of
go.
course. What are they
Bring it
doing?
back.
I gotta find out.
What's going on with that foundation?
They don't have any money, I guess. Hey, times are tough. Next, please.
Next one.
Saint Eustache has a great art collection as well of modern art, and one of the there are 9. So this is the last work that Keith Haring did before he died in 1990, and the Life of Christ. And obviously the texture is not so good here, but it's like in his signature, forms. There's one in New York as well, so those kind of meant a lot to me that there was one here. But it's right at
Leal.
Leal. Beautiful. You can just walk around, and there's a bunch of art in like modern art commissioned specifically for the church.
For the church. There's a big sculpture of the head outside with Écoute, with his hand up.
Next, please. More great art in churches. In Paris, there's so many local Delacroix, but this particular little chapel at Saint-Sulpice is just breathtaking in person. And in our book, we kind of follow him a little bit around the city.
You can find
You
different
can't
locations.
not mention Delacroix.
Exactly. And again, it's kind of the point that you can go to the Louvre or to the museum, or you can go into these churches, to these different locations, and see
I don't know.
exquisite work.
I love museums, but it's fun to discover these little things.
Yeah.
And especially
exactly.
if you don't want to be in the Louvre for 5 hours.
All day.
Next, please.
And of course, the Chagall ceiling
it?
at the Palais Garnier.
A lot of people hate it. I like it personally. I've never seen a performance at Palais Garnier, but we've gone on the self-guided tour a couple of times because it's just so gorgeous there. But the Chagall piece is just, to me, incredible. And I'm not even a Chagall fan. Are you?
I am.
Isn't there some discussion about taking it down to
It does.
recover the...
It's in pieces,
Yeah.
so it can be. It's one of the last things he ever did as well. But they didn't like it when it was debuted because it was a modern abomination in their gorgeous Napoleon
palace.
III. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think we like it now. Next, please. I don't even know what's next.
Oh.
Oh, that's it. That was it. We even thought we put too
I
many.
thought,
but
like, well, we won't get to all of them. But, well,
No, we want to keep going.
yeah.
well, and you can find more in the book.
And I put around bookmarks so you know who we are and what we, yeah.
What would you get in touch?
So how many did we just see?
I don't know, Maria. What did we
I
just see?
think 30, about 30. So about a third of the book, you kind of got the tour.
The
of
highlights
the
reel.
insights, yeah.
But honestly, we love all of them, so our highlights change for every talk
You
that we
kinda-
do.
yeah, exactly. That's why I have tabs on like every page. I'm like, that's my favorite. No, that's my favorite.
It's a good problem to have.
So happy to have any
That was
questions.
a wonderful, wonderful presentation. I wonder, because it's Paris, whether you think you'll be doing a volume 2.
Whether we think we'll be
do.
doing a volume
Will
2.
we do a volume 2?
Well, that is up to our publisher,
Yes.
unfortunately. But I've already started.
There's a lot that got cut from the final edit here, so
This is how this is how I travel anyway. So I've already kept a list of all of these things for other places for my own.
Other
This is all I
cities.
care.
And
See,
where
this
could I
is me.
find the book if I was interested in picking up one?
Well, if you were listening at the beginning, Adrian already mentioned
And what was it again, just as a reminder?
we do have them at a lot of stores in Paris, but the thing about
They
bookstores
sell
in
out
Paris
fast.
is they only order 5 books at a time, which is really weird. But they're steadily at Fluctuart, which is it's on the Seine right below. It's a floating urban art museum because we do cover a little bit of like urban art because it's happening now. And it's right below Pont des Invalides. And the bottom floor is a rotating exhibition space. The second floor is a bookshop and a permanent collection. Someone I know has shown this, my boyfriend Logan Hicks, he's an artist as well. And the top is an open air bar. It's kind of lovely in the summer, especially when it's hot here to sit up there. But they are our friends, so they regularly have a lot of copies of our books, but Amazon, the interwebs. But we do like to support the smaller bookshops.
yeah.
If you do a second part, or maybe it's even in the first, if you go to the time clock that you were talking about, Centre Pompidou, if it's working, go at noontime, that's a good time.
Yeah.
But then right near there are the Niki de Saint-Phal incredible sculptures.
Don't you worry. It's
They're in the
But I think, are they still, they're being
They were kinda-
renovated?
No, it's completed. It's done.
Oh,
Is it
yes,
back?
I just got here, so I haven't.
The Igor Stravinsky fountain is done.
Great.
It's back?
It looks
Mhm.
gorgeous.
it's on the cover.
And also, right near it is a Max Ernst sculpture on a really, really high pillar too. Right across from the Brancusi little
Brancusi
studio. I love that place too. It's not in there. We didn't
Yeah.
include any we try to just have things that you could see for free, or you buy a drink or a coffee
Something.
or something
The
like that.
catacombs are the
And
only
also,
thing.
Inside the Palais Royal, the Colonne de Bureau.
Yes, yes.
Good.
They're in there too. Actually, that's one
We-
of the bookmarks, that one right there.
We're cut from the
See,
same
these
cloth.
Yeah, we
We're
know.
gonna do a check off.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you can probably do 5 books.
Yeah,
Easily,
I mean,
easily.
everywhere. It was hard to narrow it down. So basically, I researched a lot of this for my own fun before. Then the pandemic happened, and so I decided to spend that time just doing the book and internet research. And then as soon as Macron said we could come back, I booked a flight and I walked to about 200 places to make sure that they were worthy in person, or just to see them and be like, well, this is in the middle of nowhere. I don't want to make people trudge out to here. And then whittled it down to like officially 100, but I combined a couple, so there's probably 120.
Yeah, if you put all the addresses together.
Yeah, like the art, we did like an Art Nouveau, 'cause we love Art Nouveau architecture, did like an Art Nouveau roundup just because it was too hard to pick just one.
Or like all the addresses Cezanne lived at are all lumped together.
And are your stories in there too, in the book?
Yep.
Like the
This book is pretty much like
What you just heard.
print me
Yeah.
out. Yeah, I try to make it, because I worked in like the art world and I wrote a lot of academia type of art articles that are kind of boring to the average person. I wanted it to be like me talking to you, so there's some jokes you might roll your eyes at. Sorry. That's what I'm like. I'm a little cheesy.
What does New York doesn't compare in terms of the amount of public art?
No, and especially because, like, you know, we didn't really get the artists until the wars, in between the wars, because Paris was so much more free and whatnot. But unfortunately, New York is on a weird turn right now where I'm actually on, I'm an elected official on the Historic Districts Council of New York, and it's just an uphill battle. Like, developers are really getting all the laws that, like, they're all being crushed, and so they're removing a lot of things. So,
Removing things?
yeah, just to tear it down to build a big glass tower so a bunch of rich kids can live in it, you know. It's a weird thing. We're fighting it, and it takes so long, and they keep doing things with the landmarks preservation where they'll tear it down and like they do it and then apologize. You know how it goes.
Right. I mean, do you think there's any city that has as much public art as Paris?
No.
Probably not.
No.
Because we've talked about other cities that, you know, if we had the opportunity, we would do, you know, probably like London, but like for ones that just jump out as like, no, we have to probably expand
Well,
it.
Paris is so ornamented in general, you know? It's like not even public art, like, you know, like the Rodin facade, that's not necessarily public art. He was just decorating a building. So
Yeah. And
Not even Rome, Florence?
well, I think there's a good distinction there too. There's public art, but that's not all that's in the book. It's
a
where
specific era, whereas Paris has got a lot of
Across
modern
eras.
stuff. Like we do cover like street art and Invader, and you know, like that's new. We're in the middle of that right now, so we
Right.
had to include that.
so it's like these hubs where you have artists through different movements and eras coming and working.
Which I should have asked you to put the tile. Ooh.
It's all those bombs,
I know.
all that wine.
All that
Yeah.
wine.
My Easter egg, I'm
yeah,
sorry,
your
is
Easter egg.
Logan. So there's a mural called Le Mur Oberkampf, and what is it? You tell me, how many weeks?
Every 2 weeks.
They have a different international artist come in and paint a mural, and part of it is sitting at the cafe at La Place Verte, watching them, and Logan was one of them in 2019, I believe. So there's Logan and me and my cat.
That's not the one at Rouvier du Temple and Rue des Quatre Fils?
No.
There's
No.
there's that wall too.
There's also the Bestie one
There's the
that you
Bastille.
did as
There's
well.
a few rotating malls, I
little,
think.
little
yeah.
cross promotion.
beautiful paintings too, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it from my window.
Sometimes. You know what I mean? Like that's what's great is it switches, so if you don't like something, a new one's
New
coming.
one's gonna come.
You don't have to like them all.
There's a wall actually right here on
By Le
Charlot, right at Bretagne, that also changes all the time.
I love that. It's ephemeral. It's exciting. Because that's why we love Paris so much. It's like the old and the new. You've got like meets in the middle.
But just the appreciation of art here is just amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of the culture.
And not just preserving art history, but supporting living, working
Living
artists
artists.
now, artists of the moment.
Like this,
Like the visa, like the artist visa,
Exactly.
right?
for example.
But those like Villa des Arts, those studios.
Sorry.
Right there.
It's just a different
Adrian,
kind of
you didn't
applause.
tell them to stop. But the studios that the artists get here for like peanuts, oh, wow, so jealous.
Francoise's studio is gorgeous, yeah.
Yeah, for
We're very
nothing.
envious.
They care. It's nice. That's why we'll probably move here someday. Anybody
Any
else?
other, hey, you guys, any other questions?
It's okay. You don't have to.
We talked a lot. We talked a lot.
We do talk a lot.
I'm just wondering if you brought any to sell here.
We unfortunately don't.
My
have
suitcase is
any.
small. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but that's why I just brought the bookmarks. They fit in my purse.
Yeah.
But buy the books, please. Support the authors. It's very
Yeah.
important.
I know. I'm sorry. I don't.
Or
And-
ask for them at bookstores that don't carry
That's
At bookstores, yeah, they're
That's the
always
good one.
ordered.
Asking.
Yeah, like I know the Red Wheelbarrow has ordered books for us in the past.
But yeah,
and-
Rivoli, like the Louvre bookstore, which they only order 5. Gali, I can't say it.
Libre Galignani.
Thank you.
Yeah, Smith and Son.
And Smith, they're all in a row and they all have it. But 5
Musée d'Orsay.
5 at a time.
Yeah.
Musée d'Orsay,
You
Pompidou.
would think all the but you have to go from museum to museum bookshop.
Mm-hmm.
We
And
do.
they've all had it, but they only stock a few copies at a time, which for a small shop, you know, like the Red Wheelbarrow, sure, there's limited shelf space, but we're like, come on, you're the Louvre.
We were at the Pompidou and we didn't know they had our book and we screamed and they were
True.
closing and we're like, ah! The guy's like, get out. But can we just jump up and down?
Yeah.
Too fun.
Well, thank you,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thank you.